clear. Great shirt, by the way.
Absolutely. Hey, I got to represent.
That's nice. What? All right. Which album is that? Is that like
Oh, this is Hall. This is the old.
Oh, Hall the Mountain King. Great.
Yeah.
Nice. It looked like that logo. You know, the logo changes slightly with each record for Savatage. A lot of people don't really catch that.
You know what? I didn't realize that. Now that you said it,
I mean, if you compare that to like Edge of Thorns, logo, it's a slightly different. These are minimal changes, but stuff that the insiders would know. There's little slight changes to the G or the T. We don't. We take an axe and make it sharper to offend more people. No, just kidding. He looks like an axe. It's a horrible weapon.
You know what though? I mean, the slight changes. That's to sell merchandise, man. You got to change it up and.
Yeah, they changed the logo completely coming into Edge of Thorns.
Right.
From what had been used in the past, because that logo right there started on Power of the Night.
Right.
And there were slight changes from before that. So.
Right. It's all good stuff, man. It's a great logo.
It's great. We want to make sure that we bring this thing back full force. Everybody, give us your energy.
You better believe it.
We can talk about that a little bit. I don't have much, but I got some stuff that might lend hope.
Hey, it's all good stuff. Hey, let me start off by saying that the new album, Archon Angel 2, is fantastic. I mean, it is.
Oh, thank you.
It's incredible, man.
Thank you so much.
You guys, you put out the 2 videos, Fortress and Afterburn. What's it like? I mean, just coming back. This is the second, from you guys, and the first one was fantastic. What were you looking for as far as going into this one and a follow up? People always talk about that sophomore, jinx, but there's nothing here, man. This is a smooth transition.
Thank you. I mean, we kind of got the processes down for the first one, because working with different, bands, groups, people, it's always going to have, process changes, things that are a little different than the way the process worked in the previous band or a different band and stuff like that. So we had to get kind of used to, some of the expectations of, what was coming from writers or, what are we going to, be able to input with that and just little things. I mean, I think we knew the first record was pretty good. It to me had a little bit more allusions to Savatage, which comes from, Aldo Lonobile, who is our producer, who produces several different, records for different people on Frontiers Records.
Right.
Including Jeff Tate, with Sweet Oblivion. He produced that one. And he also did Spirits of Fire, which is Chris Caffrey's band, who also does a project like mine on Frontiers. And Chris joined us on this one, contributing. He contributed the song. He did Quicksand.
Right.
If you recall that song for this new Archon Angel 2 album. So it's kind of cool. Song. The little family, kind of, getting back and doing some of the stuff we used to do, because Chris would contribute songs for, Circle to Circle from time to time, especially on the first couple of records, when I was writing with John Oliva primarily. But so we just kind of tweaked the process and we said, hey, we're going to get a little bit more. We talked about that. You want to get a little more aggressive? Sure. Let's do that. Let's get some, cool licks in there. So we weren't really worried about, losing a step coming into the, the sophomore effort. We kind of thought that it might, it had a good chance to be, stronger in different ways, because we had so much material for the first one that we were able to have like maybe 2 or 3 songs that we continued that we weren't quite ready for the first one that we actually tweaked into this one.
That's cool.
But we have 11. So basically you had 7 more that you had to come up with from scratch. Well, Chris gave us Quicksand, so that means 6. So it wasn't too awful. We got the songs quite easily, and we still had some to spare. I think we only had 2 or 3 this time that said didn't make the cut. But, maybe they can. I think in one of these, I distinctly remember Lake of Fire on this record. It's the kind of the more prog piece. um, in my estimation, the progressive, more prog sounding stuff that we maybe had 2 or 3 prog songs on the last album, where this one, I think it's only like 1 or 2, but one that comes to mind is Lake of Fire. I distinctly remember that riff being only partially developed for the first album, so we had to skip over it. But that's one of the ones that came in that one of the few that we were working on from the first album. So yeah, we were happy with it. I figured, get a good body of work in here, because this is the kind of stuff I still learn from. I do these albums like Archon Angel, to keep honing the skills, keep learning, and keep getting better. It's possible to live on the back catalog, and somebody in my position, but I don't like to get sedentary. I just want to keep putting stuff out there. Hopefully a lot of people, put an ear to it, because I think it is good. And we were really happy. We were really proud of this second record. We want to try to take it up with every record. I mean, there's multiple records on this deal, so we're going to have to keep stepping up to the plate and hitting. I don't know, at least hit some base hits. I don't know if I can hit homers every time, but we at least we got to have a good average. We got to have a good, a good average and a good effort on everyone.
I'll tell you what, you started out good with these two. I mean, really, it's I listened to the album through a couple times already. John Freeman sent me the stuff, and what's nice is there's so many great artists, that I'm fans of, and I know a lot of other people are fans of, but when I see a guy like you and your name attached to it, you know the quality that you're going to get, and the songs are going to be tight and they're going to be special. And
thank you.
With this one, it drops April 14th. So you got about a month left, and what did you feel like, when you went into this? I mean, did you feel like you had to really put some effort behind it, even more so? Like you said, you had that you have that goal that you want to hit, and you always have that level of comfort. Was it like that? Did you put a lot of pressure on yourself for this one?
There's always a little bit of pressure, but my attitude these days is go in and have fun. I think I'm probably the most comfortable. The way I explain it to people is, if you're a painter, you have a canvas and you paint what you're envisioning on there. If you're an artist, which, I'm a terrible artist, I make stick figures. That would never work. But my way of painting is the microphone is my canvas. So I'm really most comfortable when I'm in a studio with a microphone in front of my face. So I have so much fun, creating. It is like painting, the way I do tracks. I'll start with, I have an order of business that every song, I don't know what I'm going to start with. I might not start with the first word of the lyrics. I might start with a chorus, or I might start with a very soft part, just get warmed up. I might go, hey, this breaks down into a little part right here. And in order to be smart about it, let's start here. And that way, by the time I get to verse 1, I'm on fire. And then by the time you hear the beginning of the song, you're like, hey, that's not coming in cold. That's coming in. So I have an orderly order of business, with every song. If I'm feeling super warmed up one day, I might come in on a real aggressive, part. But, I just kind of build it and put track down, layer some stuff. There's harmonies and stuff, on this record and the choruses. And there's a lot of there's some doubling, there's stuff for, to make, create different kind of textures. That's the kind of way I liken it to painting. I mean, I'm creating textures with one guy. And it works. But I don't want to go too far either, where it's just a bunch of, processed, affected stuff.
Exactly.
So it's a fine line. People say both ways. I've heard, even for this record already, just from the people I talked to, the journalists, and, even my wife here at home, Catherine, she writes all the lyrics for Archon Angel, and she came up with the name.
That's cool.
And she does the concept and everything. So obviously we have good chemistry when it comes to, working together like that.
Very nice.
Artistically. But, she'll say, hey, you should leave that one, leave that one track. You don't need to put all those damn harmonies on the chorus. That's just me That's just me having fun
Right.
because that's the way I like to have fun, you know, in there. I'll make, hey, watch this. And, you know, I'll double the harmony, right, you know, and I'll watch this. So it might be, I don't want anything to be ego driven and stuff, but that's just the way I have fun. And other people have come to me trying to say, man, I love those harmonies on the chorus. So then you hear both of them, you go, wait a minute, which one? You know,
exactly.
What does the wizard do going forward? He hears everything from everyone. But
right.
That's what we get a lot as artists. We get people on opposite poles of comments and you know, even, you know, I don't know if you call it critiques or whatever. I don't really spend too much time reading. I haven't read a review about anything I've done in like 15 to 17 years.
That's a good thing sometimes, I'm sure.
Because I can't get involved in stuff that I've already done. It's already there.
Right.
The act has been committed. And now if I go back and people, there's nothing I can change. So it's not going to do me one bit of good to go back and read what it is. If people are either going to enjoy the song or they'll go, that's all right. What's this next one? You know, so we just try to make each stop on the track list something that it retains people's attention for 10 seconds and then go from there. We know that attention spans have gotten less and less and less with people in general in the world.
That's the truth.
Over the years. So if you don't get somebody within like 4 seconds, you've lost the computer. Computer no longer responding. We can't do it.
They shut down and that's it.
Self-destruct.
That's it.
But
that's the truth.
But so I don't really get it, but it's wild from an artist perspective, you know, the huge differences of comments you get on stuff. So we're somewhere in the middle is what I'm saying. If I lived somewhere about 50%, don't do though, leave it naked. No, stack that thing like Zak Stevens does with counterpoint stuff and cannons. And I don't mean
there you go.
You know, I mean different, you know.
Yeah.
Not talking about blowing it up with a cannon. We're talking about a musical canon, which is a series of different melodies going on all at the same time. But they're distinct. You know, that stuff started in Savatage on chance. You know, on you know, on the second record that I did. You know, where you get these different. We called it counterpoint. We have to have it's really a canon, but we have to have a more technical way to call it when you're in Savatage. So let's get more technical and change canon to counterpoint. Hey, I was all about counterpoint because I like to be technical, but for Handful of Rain, we started, so it's been out there quite a long time and people say, keep doing that. So that's why you hear it from time to time. Heck, we did it in Circle to Circle. We, you know, I do it on both of these Archon Angel albums. And that's the kind of stacking and stuff that is so fun. But people still want to, you know, they ask me about it because if I do a record where I don't have at least one little section of that, they go, that's missing. So I get it. So I pay a little credence to it and put it in there.
Make them happy, huh?
But as long as I'm somewhere dead in the middle between don't do that, yes, do that, then I think we're okay.
Then you're good. Well, you got to balance it. People get used to that certain style. You know, they want to hear it like, hey, you know, what's he doing here? But, you know, with everything that you do, I mean, you know, you have, you know, like listening to this new album, you know, the opening track, you know, Wake of Emptiness, you know, what I like about it is it's kind of setting you up for the whole story, you know, to listen through. And I love it. I really love the way it's laid out.
Much. I will hand it to my wife on that one. She knows how to set up a story and kind of continue stories. We get stories from everybody. The way it works with Archon Angel, the Archon is the guy who has wings, who I still think to this day is fictitious. I haven't ever taken a trip up to Starbucks where I've seen an Archon land and need to order in front of me. So I think that we're talking about something that doesn't exist now, but I could be wrong. What do I know? I'm only like the way things are going with the UFOs and stuff. I don't even know what
exactly.
But the way it works is the Archon in this religion, in this 2nd century religion, which is talking about years in the 1000s, which has elements of before Christianity and has you know, early elements of Christianity shortly after Jesus died. This Archon is supposed to be the only way that the people of Earth can send their messages to the gods. In this case, in this very complicated religion, demiurge, the guy who created everything. And then Jesus reports to the boss, the Gnostic, who is pretty much just in charge of esoteric knowledge. It's totally,
Gotcha.
it's wild. And Jesus, and what we get from Christ in that religion is the ability to have redemption of the human spirit. So it's completely different than what we kind of know now in the modern, religions and stuff. So the Archon is within that whole crazy thing. He's the only way that the people of Earth can send a message to the, to those people up there who are the gods, So he's now, and in Archon Angel, he's now in modern day times. He decides to land. So I see him one day at Starbucks and go, what the hell is that?
Right.
And then he goes, I'm here to help out. You guys are on the verge of like this whole thing blowing up.
Right.
Now you need help. And I'm like, no problem. I'll first offer you a double shot of espresso mocha, and then you can tell me how we can help. But no, seriously, this guy, he's now able to help us. So that's kind of where this whole concept of Archon Angel is. He comes to Earth and in the modern day time. And now all these stories are part of his life. He's very human, as you can tell from the songs, and every song has a story. So, and we get the inspiration from people we meet who have superhuman stories. It could be somebody like my wife's late dad, who served in Vietnam and who had helicopter crashes and still survived. Multiple, it's stories like that.
That's amazing.
Of stuff where we see human experience and you go, how did somebody even do that?
Right.
And that kind of stuff will creep in as well for inspiration into this, more fictitious tale.
I love it. I mean, I love hearing, stuff like that, because, it separates you from, what everybody else is doing. It's like, hey, we're really putting a lot of thought into this. And I really, you really hear it in the songs. I mean, when you listen through, like I love, One Last Reflection and I Will Return. I mean, that's another great song. I mean, just listening through, to what you're doing in here. I love the process. I mean, and hearing how you describe the process. Really cool.
Thank you so much. I thought that I Will Return. You were talking about I Will Return. I really thought I heard a little bit of Iron Maiden in that when we first got the demo.
Right.
I was thinking about, what song is that? Because I'm always one for, like, even if a tiny piece of something has something in it, like you get inspiration from all these different, we know Aldo, he must love Queensryche, because man, I hear little Queensryche snippets, even in the first, like I hear, like I'm the first one to point that out. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I really have I have so much of a catalog of music in my head that if somebody plays a song, I'm like, that was like a song from 1943 in a musical. No, I don't go that far back. But as far as metal,
right.
So I think I heard, you know what I'm saying, but you know what? In metal and rock, there's little pieces of everybody in it now.
There is.
So that's the way it goes, and everybody knows that. So you just kind of take, if you have a little inspiration, I say go ahead and use it. I don't want to get too crazy with the fact that I recognize every little, riff that ever occurred since Led Zeppelin of the 70s or even bands of the 60s.
Right. That's so cool, though.
Yeah.
It's so cool to hear that, because, everybody has the influences, so you're going to hear those influences in the music. It's, it just depends how it's interpreted, like you said, and it comes off, I mean, extremely well with this band. I'll tell you what, it really does.
Thank you so much, man. We're just trying to get, like I said, some cool riffs in every area. We get the way the process works in this band is we'll get the songs. They're just instrumentals.
Right.
We get that from Aldo, and they're pretty much intact. Maybe besides how many times a part might run or how many measures something goes that could be adjusted.
Right.
And then we're given a blank slate. And then me and my wife get together and go, hey, where does this little body of music stand in the story of this Archon's life? What's happening in the story? And she pretty much takes it from there. Then
That's cool.
I get the vocal melodies and go, hey, this is what I want to sing here, and do a bunch, I sing to stuff that doesn't really have lyrics, but just to give an idea of the melody.
Right. Right.
And I'm sure coffee comes in there somewhere. I'm sure that if I'm singing scat, the coffee has a delicious taste.
Yeah, make it fit, hey.
But so she'll, okay, and then what I get is when she gives me the final draft, the final lyrics do dictate some of the melody as well, and finishes out perfectly of the stuff that I was just kind of hitting, that I needed the fringes on. I need the details. So that it works great to just kind of finish out exactly what needs to happen there with melodies. And, so yeah, it's an interesting process. I've never seen a process like this with another band, but we really like it. We've really gotten used to it. It works out good.
I think that's a really cool process. It's a great story too. I mean, to be able to work with your wife on this stuff, and then you guys collaborating. I mean, that's beyond cool, because like you said, you've never heard anything like that. I know anybody that I've ever interviewed, I've never heard, but it just comes together so nicely. I mean, it's a great piece. I'll tell you what, a great piece.
Thank you so much. Sometimes she'll even add a little postscript to the final lyrics going, take out the trash.
Yeah.
And vacuum the room. No, I'm just go to the grocery store. Here's your, wait, what do you call that? Here's your honey-do list.
There you go. That's it.
Don't sing it like that.
That's it. Just sing it the way we need it sung. We got one of my questions too was, you answered it earlier, was how does a song come about, and I think that's really cool to hear, because when you're a fan listening to the music, and how the song came about, it just kind of gives you a better perspective on what type of art this is. I mean, really, because it's to be appreciated in so many different ways, and when you hear how the artist actually puts it together, and all the work behind the scenes, it just makes you appreciate it that much more.
Good. I don't know if this stuff's interesting or not. I mean, you talk about the processes of, songwriting and stuff. I have no idea. It has to be something that we can work with.
Right.
We think it makes sense, but it could be, I was never sure how it's taken out there, because it seems rather technical. And it comes down to everything. Even, my engineer, Jamie, who, I pretty much do all my vocals in one studio here in town in South Carolina. And he has a big part to do with it too, because now we have a process of recording, which gets even more technical. And him recording every song for Archon Angel. The first album I recorded was I was living in Michigan. So that was done at a different studio, but still really great people. Right. So you have a little bit slightly different vocal sound. I think even a little more warm. In my opinion, it's warmth. Right. I say warmth is a little bit, it's hard to explain that. Maybe a little bit more. I say warm because of maybe low frequency content or something like that, but still really think it came out good. And, so
I agree.
Even down to what the process you use in the studio, it has to be people getting used to it. So now he's completely used to what Archon Angel stuff entails. And it's pretty, I got to tell you, the vocals in this stuff it's difficulty level way up there. I mean, this is like a 9 of 10 of difficulty level, because when somebody tells me it's going to be a 10,
right,
I'm like running away. No.
Yeah. You could get it, man. I'll tell you what.
But it's tough. Like, it's challenging, this stuff. Like, I'm like, whoa. So I guess it's going to continue to get more and more challenging, is what we're going to have to do in order to top what we did. But, wish me luck. Wish me luck.
You got the pipes, man. I know you could do it.
Thanks.
Believe me,
you wonder sometimes, but it's definitely challenging.
That's good though, man, because you go in as as an artist, like you said, you want to stay a click ahead, because you don't want to ever get into that zone where you get that comfort zone. You don't grow, and your voice too. I mean, from the first time I heard you, obviously on Edge of Thorns, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the first one to say, man, I was blown away by that song, when it first came out.
No, thank you.
But I still think that you have, what you had back then. But I mean, it's even getting better. I mean, you've maintained that level of consistency.
Well, I appreciate it. There's always that with the human voice, you go, and that was 30 years ago. I think we're having the 30th anniversary of that album this year.
Right.
I think there's some things I do a lot better than back then, but maybe in terms of some range stuff, I think I might have had a little bit higher, range of full voice stuff that maybe back then. But that's natural. That happens with the male voice over the years. There's a natural progression of the way the voice goes. I think you can go the way it is generally you can sing up to about 65 years old without falling, without any real obvious fall off in quality.
That's cool.
So that means I have a lot longer. So I've just been trying to develop that. But there's plenty of things on the lower side or the more rough side. I think I have like I don't know, maybe my voice is like 4-dimensional. I've got a real soft and smooth side. I've got like a powerful, clean thing. I got like a real rough, powerful thing. And then I got some, what I call super, crunch.
Right.
So I didn't have all that. I only had 2 dimensions on Edge of Thorns. Now I think I have more like 4 dimensions. So you grow, you have growth through the years with your instrument. And, that side's probably more, but then as far as just pure, my range right now is higher than it was ever, but it depends on what kind of range you can sing in a full voice mode without going falsetto, without getting into too many technical things. Falsetto wise, I've got more of a, vocal range. It's probably like 4 octaves plus, as far as what, the super high notes I can hit now. It's kind of funny. We laugh about it in TSO. I hit really, really high notes backstage when we're fooling around. They go, "How do you do that?" Right. I don't know. Like, it's just kind of always been there. So we laugh about how high of notes that we hit that I get, even being a baritone singer, because mostly I'm using like the lower ranges, like the second tenor or baritone now.
Right.
Yeah. So, but still able to hit up, super like Rob Halford screams. Plus, I don't know. I'm just glad it's there. I have no idea how that's still happening, but
that's good.
Yeah, that great question. You reminded me of some other elements in there because the question, it was so good. But I know what it is that you were saying. Hey, you got to keep your, you want to stay sharp. You want to keep your tools. What's in your tool belt, your vocal tool belt, as we refer to it, you keep it sharp.
Right.
And doing these Archon Angel albums has done just that. And you totally reminded me of that when you asked the question. It's important for me to do this because this keeps, this keeps the skills going. And plus I actually get smarter and get more knowledge every time I do it. Because just my wife alone, with her knowledge of music and the deep technical knowledge and the theory, I didn't ever go quite that deep. Being a singer and a drummer, you don't have to know every bit of musical. Now I know a whole lot more theory than I did even 2 years ago or 4 years ago, just from sitting there learning from her. And also the fact that we actually now take some of that knowledge and say, hey, let's put it into the album. Because this song, Away from the Sun, that sounds very Middle Eastern.
Right.
That's using an Egyptian scale, which is not a Western scale that you grew up hearing music with in your ears and me in your ears as U.S. guys in the United States. We grow up with Western music, which is like classical music, Western Europe. The keys that you use, the scales that are involved in that. Right. It's astounding that me and you grew up hearing music that only encompassed something like 6 to 8 scales.
Okay.
And there's 366 or something like that scales in the world.
Wow, that's amazing.
So we have 350 plus scales that we have never even really delved into as people from the West. And the music we've heard, which includes all rock and roll, all 50s music, the beginning, any kind of classical, stuff coming from the well-known composers.
Right.
So it's amazing how few scales that all that encompasses. And now we were able to say, hey, let's take an exotic scale. We call any scale outside of what we normally would know. There's stuff like Byzantine, Egyptian, Japanese scales, things from other lands, African. There's a whole slew of stuff from Africa. We said, hey, Aldo, let's do like an Egyptian scale on one of the songs. It's something that we would call exotic. That's not a normal scale that, Western music people would hear.
Right.
And so he said, all right, boom. And he came up with Away from the Sun. And it is like, has that,
it does.
It has a scale from Egypt. And now it totally lends itself to Middle Eastern. And there's where the Archon is at the time. He's landed there. He's looking at the pyramids. He's contemplating life right there in the old kingdom and versus the new kingdom. And he's there with the ancient pharaohs. And only he can see their ascension into the heavens that they were meant to be done when they were embalmed and put there to make that journey that, and it turns out a ostensibly difficult journey into the heavens that was created for the king, and the pharaohs of Egypt. So boom.
That's cool.
So that's what we're going to continue to do. We're going to use some exotic stuff going forward.
That's really cool. I mean, because it's, now that you said that and listen to that song, that really, that's really cool, to have that element too, because it's different. I mean, you don't want to have an album that's like this the whole way across. I mean, having that diversity, where the songs are changing, where there's different, textures and feelings. I mean, it's a good thing, I think, from a listener standpoint.
Good. I know it's going to be like, it's still rock and roll, so it's a good way to introduce it. People listen to a song like Away from the Sun, they go, wow, that's really cool. They might not realize that that's using a scale that they've never heard in their entire existence, being from a specific place in the world, such as U.S. or England, or, people who have been accustomed to the, the music that we have heard our entire life. They probably don't realize that's not a scale encompassing any of my life or music that I've dug, like Elvis and stuff like that. But guess what? You can still make it cool. So there's an example. There's an example right there. So check that out. I really like that song. I showed that to the guys in TSO. We had the mixes by the time we had the winter tour. And so I ripped that one out and said, check this one out. And you know what?
They probably loved it. Sure.
Caleb Johnson, he kept making me play that song over and over again. I love that song. What's that one with the Egyptian scale?
Play it again.
So yeah,
cool.
I was happy with because that shows that people, that it's different.
We're talking about this, and then I think of, like I said, when the Edge of Thorn days. Kind of like when, like I said, when I first heard you and everything, what was it like, back then, kind of compared to now, like when you went in and you did that album, what's some of the differences, as far as the process, are you involved more with the writing now? Do you, what's your comfort level as far as, those two eras, let's put it that way?
Well, at that time, the writing for Savatage was very intact for many years already. John Oliva, Chris Oliva, and Paul O'Neill writing pretty much everything.
Right.
I had a few little vocal melody ideas that I put in there, like for Scraggy's Tomb.
Good song.
That's one that comes to mind. Summer was the season.
That's it. All right.
So I, stuff, little things here or there or whatever that came to mind, but now I have to do all of that, or the bulk of it, so that's pretty much where it is now. I mean, and then when in Circle to Circle days, I write all the lyrics and all the, anything to do with vocals. And now I'm just kind of I'm not doing the lyrics for Archon Angel, but I'm just doing everything else that has to do with vocals. So it's a larger role, what I do now, and what I had done, especially since Circle to Circle. And it's a larger role because there's less writers, and I have a little bit more responsibility for that. But
Right.
I like that, and that's what I specialize in. So right now, I really like it because the stuff that I feel like I do the best is what I'm doing right now. You know, I like
Right.
writing a bunch of lyrics, but I don't. But it comes a lot more difficult to me than it does like somebody like my wife who just naturally just
rolls
it
out.
just
Yeah.
comes right out, and it's like this incredible. Like, where did you get that from? I would struggle for hours and hours to get something like that. You know, in my estimation. So I'm doing exactly what I want to do right now with that, you know, and I imagine that's what, if, you know, with Savatage can go forward, then what I do right now is exactly what I would do, you know, there as well. Maybe with a little bit more lyrical responsibility, but that's
Right.
okay when you're working with people like John Oliva, you know.
Right.
And you know, you know, the first Circle to Circle record shows what we can do lyrically together. And we're a lot better at it now, because that was 2003. So imagine, you know, we're a lot better at it now.
I can't believe, you know, that when you look at that 2003 already, I mean, you're looking at 20 years, and it just seems like, you know, time flew by.
Yeah, it's
It's
unreal. Yeah, and every year it seems to get a little faster. So that's the challenge now, is how to make time slow down.
Right.
That'll be the whole concept of the next album, inventing that time machine that makes time slow down.
That's a
That
good
I can
idea.
have right here in the living room. And
There
you
you
watch
go.
a lot of good hockey games, but in between hockey games, we go back in time and slow down the time.
That's a good
That would
deal.
be fantastic. No, I'm sure that's already been done with time machines. But
Hey, that's a good idea, man. That's
like
a great idea.
I
Interesting.
don't like how fast the time's going now. You know, it seems like it goes really fast. Before you know it, like every year, I'm going, man, the TSO tour is so far away. And then before you know it, you turn around and go, oh no, I got like 2 weeks to get ready.
Right there it is. Yeah.
So I
Oh,
don't
man.
know what's going on now, but something's got to give. I got to put a request in through the Archon to take a message to the guys. They slowed damn time down.
Slow it down, man. We got to get it done. Hey, what's it like working with those guys? You know, like, you know, John, obviously, I mean, a great songwriter, great, you know, composer, everything he does. And the one I really, you know, I know a lot of people ask you about is Chris. I mean, Chris, to me, was one of the greatest guitar players that I've ever heard personally. I mean, and it was such a tragic loss, you know, to the, you know, the people that know the music. And what was it like working with him?
Amazing. I mean, you're talking about like a musical genius where everything just kind of rolls right out. With Chris, the thing that struck me, you know, and I lived with him for quite a long time, actually. When I first joined Savatage, I lived with Chris and his wife, Dawn. And
That's cool.
Great people. One thing I noticed about Chris, you're talking about somebody who never practiced.
Wow.
Like, I know all these guitar players that sit around and do all these little things, like the scales we talked about, going into all kind of wild stuff.
Right.
And technique. He kind of had already done all that. So it was like, he just kind of picked it up, says, time to go to the studio. He picked it up and got in there and ripped. Because I don't know. I mean, he practiced a little bit, but not anything that really, like, you know, stood out, like 3 or 4 hours here, or, you know, things like there that you're kind of used to seeing.
Right.
He just never practiced at all. And I'm like, how do you do that? So it was definitely some natural ability where he probably felt like he's just kind of giving his fingers a rough time if he was practicing. Like, this is just kind of putting wear and tear on everything.
Yeah, that's it. That's amazing.
Yeah, so it just came so natural. I've never really seen that ever before. And the fact of just being able to he could listen to music, you know, during the day or whatever was on the rock station, and he would key in on one little thing, and he would get home and pull the guitar out and like have this riff that he would develop just to some little tiny snippet he heard sometime during the day. He goes, what do you think about this? You know, and
you're blown away.
He like, you know, I think that needs to go on the album.
Right.
He goes, I think we're going to do this. So
that's cool.
You know, Degrees of Sanity or something like that, you know,
right.
That weird wild chord talking about crazy, you know, notes that go together that probably are not supposed to go together, but just sound pretty badass when you finally do it. So he would do like something like a Degrees of Sanity opening riff or, you know, and into the verses. And we were like, we knew right away, you know, that's going on. Pretty much everything he came up with is going to go on a record somewhere. But yeah, I never really seen anything like it. It's hard to believe that he left us at 30 years old, which is like, It was horrible. And you don't want to ever go through anything like that.
Right.
That devastating ever. But when you think how young, it was truly tragic, especially the age that the whole thing just like,
Right.
And we've just been trying to do what he would have wanted to ever since, with everything that was going on with Savatage after that. When it first happened, we were like, this is it. Cannot go on. It will never be going on. But then as everybody started realizing, what would Chris say? Then you start to get the real answer, which is why we picked it back up again and did Handful of Rain. It's because when you think about what he would say, it would be like, you're all a bunch of a-holes that you should have been working on this already. What are you doing? You're supposed to be in the studio yesterday.
Right. Yep.
So then it was like, yeah, that is what he would say. So then everybody did the right thing and we got moving. But it takes a few months to even breathe again. I don't even think I left the corner of the room that I was in when I got the news. Like I didn't leave there for like 4 hours. I just don't remember much. It was like I went, slumped down and stayed for like, bring me food in a straw, no solid food. I'm on a hunger strike.
Yeah, for weeks. And having that that connection with him, like you said, you lived with him, you knew his family, and to have something like that happen, just the creative loss there. I could just imagine how you guys felt. John obviously,
tough break.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a real tough break. The level of the artistry he brought in and the level of creativity and stuff is just unspeakably. I don't even know if you can even explain that. That's the reason it was so hard to continue. We felt like, that's impossible, because you take that creative element and everything he brought to it, and the playing. Like you said, he was my favorite guitar player of all time anyway, as well. Just the natural sound. It was somewhere between Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen somewhere.
Right. He had so many elements. I really think if you look at all the great guitar players, and you hear him play, it's him.
Yeah.
And I love that he had that
sound,
piece.
The amp choice, the module choice. It was pretty amazing. It was somewhere. It was back when Tom Schultz had the Rocktronic or whatever modules out at the time.
Right.
The guy, Boston's guitar player.
Yeah.
Electrical engineer.
Great player.
And developed all of that, electronics for guitars. So that was a piece of it right there, believe it or not, for the clean component.
Right.
It was using that module from Tom Schultz. And then also we had Laney's amps that would run pretty much full power on a clean signal. And then I don't know exactly. I'm a singer trying to explain.
I got you.
That's very scary. But full, almost like 8, like all the way clean, and then using pedals to get the distortion after that.
Cool.
I know there's probably something I'm missing in there somewhere that some people know.
He really did it.
That was the sound. It was like a super, when the distortion got added due to like the regular distortion pedals and stuff, it was basically utilizing full clean power coming from, which I think he left off with Laney amps at the time, but he had used everything, Marshalls, blah, 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 everything down the line.
Right.
But I think that was what would give him the best crunch when he went to the distortion. And then the stuff that was clean was working off those Tom Schultz things with a little bit of distortion coming off of them, because you can recall the distortion on the Boston albums, like really crunchy, almost like super compressed, but I don't think he used all that compression.
Right. That's a great sound too. That's great that you tied that in though too.
Sound that we hear, that, I wanted to really know, like inquiring minds want to know. That's back when the Inquirer magazine was super big back then. The inquiring minds wanted to know. So, me having an inquiring mind, I wanted to know, how do you get that sound that I've been loving all the. So I took a peek into it, but I'm not going to understand it's like the cookbook from the famous chef. He's not going to let you know everything. There's got to be something held back for the chef.
Keep some pieces out for sure.
Recipe. You get some of the recipe, but you might not get the 3% that was very important, but so I know I didn't get the full recipe.
The piece
But,
that's him, that's what it is.
yeah, so I
gotta
did get
keep that
most
little
of the
piece.
recipe. Yeah.
Right.
And then his fingers, and then of course the fingers did the rest, because with guitars, it's the fingers that get the tone, from what I know, like from what I've seen in the, the fingers is what gives guitarists their tone.
Right.
The left, or whatever, the hand on the fretboard.
Right.
And then Chris used that full chrome pick.
Nice.
A pick of chrome, not plastic. So then chrome picks against metal strings.
You get the sound. Like I know Eddie Van Halen, they always said would boil his strings, to get different sounds and everything. And that's cool how those guys do it. It's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. So every little thing matters, so it was, the attack. I know the attack, from that chrome pick on the string, that's going to be something during leads. As you can probably hear it as I'm saying, all the leads and stuff like that, Hall of the Mountain King and even Edge of Thorns, stuff like that. You can hear the attack.
That is,
and that attack comes from metal on metal. So, for singers like me who don't know jack crap anything about guitars, we try to pick up a little bit. I can talk drums, because drums is my first instrument, but I can't really talk like a ton of guitars. But I do what I can.
That's good. I think you did a great job. I mean, it's great to hear that background. How that started. What he was like, and and kind of like how it tied into all the music, and what angles he came from.
Yeah, it was just like good people just hanging out. The loss was just, gosh, more than I could even put on a scale of anything. It was just like, I felt so, still feel bad for John, and, he carries that burden,
Right.
John Oliva, it will, and that sucks, we all do, but John especially. So we're just always trying to prop each other up. Luckily I talk to John quite a lot now these days, especially with the TSO tours and everything. So we're good. I want to, before I have to fly, I want, the thing about it is, Savatage, we went over to Europe. We played Wacken in front of 90,000 people with TSO and Savatage together in 2015.
Right. That's
amazing. We were supposed to, that was the reunion, and we were really supposed to be convening and getting something else going. But then Paul O'Neill passed away,
Right.
in 2017. And so that really has derailed things, as we've had to really work hard to make sure TSO stays on the right, and sustainability and staying on the right, which everybody's done a beautiful job with, everybody in both bands, the management and everybody. So
it's huge.
And it's working. And now, we got a good, we know that we can make the show dynamic with TSO and do the things, and that would be all by asking the question, in this case, what would Paul want to do? We can only guess, but we try to keep to that moniker. You know what I'm saying? What would Paul do?
Right. You have that level that he set.
Just the same as what would Chris do when it came to driving all the, the Savatage business after his passing.
Right.
So what we're doing, luckily, we got a lot of good work done with Savatage in the last 2 months of 2022, while we were out on the road. We got the band together to have like serious cool meetings. So I was so happy that at least we got more work done in 2 months than we did even the entire period of time since Paul passed away in 2017 till now. So I will give that, I'll put that out there.
Excellent.
And so we're hoping, if there's a few things that are out of our control, that we got a few little obstacles to cross, but it's just business stuff. And now I really feel confident that, I've seen a lot of great stuff. I'll put it that way. Hopefully we can get to work on this, because the way I look at it, okay, you had one band, Savatage, then it kind of became another band, but still one band, TSO.
Right.
And now my wish is to go back to two bands. We got it. You know what I'm saying? Right. One to two. And when we complete that circle, then I'll be happier. So that's what we're working on. We're going to get the two bands.
That's a good deal.
We got to morph it back to two bands. So that's what we're working on right now.
That's a good deal. Well, I know we're wrapping it up. I wanted to ask you one quick question. I mean, you did the Fallen video here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Was your vocal I thought that was cool because that's where I'm based out of. And when I saw the video, I was like, man, that's Pittsburgh.
That's right. And you know why? Because my
Cool.
wife is from Pittsburgh.
Really?
Catherine's from
Awesome.
Pittsburgh. Now, what town are you from?
I grew up in North Huntingdon, which it's probably maybe 30 minutes outside of Pittsburgh.
North Huntingdon.
Yeah, it's
My wife, she's from Swickley in the North Hills.
Okay.
And very close to North Allegheny High School area.
Okay.
Because
I know where it's at for sure.
Yeah, we'll be cruising around and I'll see NA, high school.
Yep.
And so it's Franklin Park.
Okay.
Is where my wife hails from. So
probably
that's so cool that you guys
from us. Yeah.
Yeah. So gosh, you guys are from very, not too far away from each other. And
close.
Yes, that is shot up there on Mount Washington.
That was cool.
Where the incline goes.
Yep.
Straight up the hill, the incline, and we went up there and on that little lookout perch.
Right. Right.
I guess you call it lookout platform. That's where we shot. And it was funny because there was a lot of people hanging out and I knew I wanted to get that shot on the lookout perch where it's actually higher than the whole city of Pittsburgh. The city's down there. So you're looking over the tops of all the big buildings, UPMC, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Buildings, all the stadiums,
right.
All the sports teams, baseball and football. And
you guys did it.
And you're looking out over where the hockey team plays too, PPG Paints Arena. And that's where TSO plays all the time.
Right.
Every winter. So, but guess what? There was a whole lot of people on the outlook perch looking out. So I had to go, can we shoot like a piece of a rock video here? And can we have this area? And it was like, sure, no problem. What do you got? Who are you? And I said, well, I sing, for TSO, Zak Stevens, but this from another band. They go, wow, this is cool. So people were actually standing around just like I had like 50 people standing around me just like that, watching the
recording. That's cool.
Me trying to now not be nervous and try to, the word, lip sync the words correctly,
right.
To fall. And it was like, oh my God. I was like, I remember the feeling. I was like, oh God, what did we even get ourselves into? But to get the shot was great. And I don't think, and I think I got through it without, I think I had a few things I'm like, okay, we can't use that. But I did it right enough times and we were able to get out of there in about 15 minutes. And then I thanked everybody for letting me barge in on them shooting a rock video. And then now please enjoy the city of Pittsburgh. Now you're all free to enjoy. Thank you so much. And so we went down the street and shot a few more things walking, between an alley or something like that. But yeah. That's so cool. I had no idea you were from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I had to bring that up. When I saw it, like I said, the first time, I said, man, that's awesome. That's really cool.
You know what? Gosh, I should have recognized the accent.
No, that's okay.
Would you consider yourself a Yinzer?
I don't really have that, that deep.
It escaped me. I didn't hear the usual. Yeah. Wow. That's so interesting.
I kind of think it was because, when I was born, I was born here in Pittsburgh and then we moved out to the Philly area. We lived in Quakertown and Lansdale when I was a kid and then, came up to Pittsburgh. So I've been here for 40 years now.
Just enough outside of that accent where I didn't recognize it. I've gotten real good at recognizing the indigenous, the people who, right there in Pittsburgh accent.
Some of them have it. Yeah. Deep.
Yeah, real deep. Yeah, it's so funny. But I always, I joke with people there and I say, did you know that I'm an honorary Yinzer?
Yeah.
They'll go, what are you talking about? I said, because my wife's from here and I'm trying to, like following all the good traditions.
Right.
And they say, okay, well, that sounds good enough. They have no idea. When I say honorary Yinzer, they're like, what in the hell is this guy talking about?
They don't realize it.
I think I made that. I don't think I made that up. But anyway, it just seems really far. So I'm like, okay, whatever. This is going over like a lead balloon.
Yeah, they don't
I think
get
I'll
it.
just go on down to Permanis and,
Enjoy
try to leave the fries on the sandwich so you don't get, weird. And,
That's it, Zach.
But yeah,
That's cool.
amazing. But
That's
hey,
cool.
great talking, man. I really appreciate it. Oh, and you mentioned the videos, and I would say everybody go take a look at the
Yep.
the videos we got out there for Fortress, the first single on the record, and then we just put it like a lyric video out that's done really differently. I like it a lot.
I like
the
it.
song Afterburn.
Great songs too. Great
Thank
songs.
you so much.
Hey, April 14th, everybody. Zak Stevens. Zak, I want to say thanks, man. In closing here is all the great things that you've done, over the years, just as for me as a fan, I really appreciate it. I just want to say thank you, man. I appreciate it. Keep doing it. You got me forever, man. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. I really appreciate that. I'm one of the lucky ones. I just, I got put in there, and you get thrown in there, you put in the game, and you just try to do the best you can. If it was hockey, I would fail miserably. I don't even know how people do that. I don't know how they skate around and shoot the puck.
It's tough.
But no, I'm just been very, blessed and lucky to been able to, get involved with a lot of great music, especially Savatage. I was a huge fan, and they brought me in. I'm like, oh, wow, this is a high level of music. That's what everybody's in it for. I was like, this is everything you've wanted to do. Go in and do it, do the best you can. And, kind of do it your own way. I'm just happy to still be in it. And thank you so much for everything.
You did it, man. Best of luck with the album too.
Thank you. I think it should be fun. I'm going to do a lot more talking about it in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how it goes. It was great to make. I think it rocks. So I hope everybody enjoys it out there.
Great album. Thanks, Zak. Have a good day.
You too, man.
Thank you.
See you later, John.